We have been discussing about in our previous class regarding the political causes of why the revolt has occurred. So we all know that the East India Company was ruling India, and there are certain policies taken up by East India Company. Because of these policies, what happened? Ultimately a revolt came up. So in that reasons, what are the things that they did and what made people of India to revolt against them, that we were studying now. So among the various reasons, the first and foremost reason that we are studying is political causes. And among the political causes, we have described about outright wars, like they directly took wars and controlled some places of India. So you know why they want Indians under their control. Because East India Company is a trading company, and to make trade more profitable, it wanted to have the control on the territories. So if the territory is under their control, they can easily, exploit the resources of that territory and make huge profits. So now, in the process of their acquiring territories, they used wars. So they fought Anglo-Mysore wars, Anglo-Maratha wars, and many things. And Battle of Plassey was very such important battle where, for the first time, Bengal came into their control, along with Bihar and other places. So after the direct wars, they adapted another strategy called subsidiary alliance. So they wanted to become, the rulers directly here through this subsidiary alliance process. Some Indian states were brought under the British control without actually annexing them. That means without taking that particular kingdoms under their direct control. What the British was wanted to do, they wanted to have the territories under their control. Not that they will become rulers, but they want that territories under their control. What do you mean by that? The rulers of that particular territory must be obeying to this British people. So to make them obeyed and to make them under their control, they used a policy called subsidiary alliance. So who brought this policy? Lord Wellesley. So you can see him in a picture. The Lord Wellesley, he was a you know he was a British officer at that time, and he introduced this policy called subsidiary alliance. So how exactly they will take the territory under their control through this subsidiary alliance, that we will see. See, any Indian ruler belonging to any kingdom or territory, if he agrees for this subsidiary alliance, then they are accepting the British as the supreme power. So by entering into this agreement called subsidiary alliance, the ruler of that particular Indian territory will have to accept British as a supreme power, and they have to surrender their foreign relations to East India Company. So East India Company, will monitor the foreign relations of that particular territory. So they will be not allowed any Indian king or any Indian ruler who has agreed for this subsidiary alliance will not be allowed to have any other relations with neighboring kingdoms without the prior permission and without the notice of the Britishers. So the any Indian ruler who enters into subsidiary alliance have to submit or surrender their foreign relations, their whatever friendship they have with the neighboring kingdoms and all. They have to inform earlier to British, and then they have to have a relation with them. And without the notice of these Britishers, they should not have any contacts with the foreign or contacts with the neighboring kings. And agreed that they would not enter into an alliance with any other power and would not wage wars. So here, as per this subsidiary alliance, they should not have any, friendly relations. I mean, they can have, but they should have only with prior permission of Britishers. Along with that, by this time, French were also strengthening their roots in India. French were also, they came for trade and they were having certain territories under their control. The British and French, they were always enemies. So what British said that in this, according to this alliance, if these rulers who entered into subsidiary alliance with Britishers, they should not have any alliance with any other foreign power. That means it may be French or somebody else. So, and they should not wage wars. So without the intimation to British, they should not have any kind of relations with either local Indian rulers or it may be a foreign powers like French. And as per this treaty, they should accept a British resident at their headquarters and agreed not to employ any European in their service without consulting the company. So the third the third condition is a British officer will stay in that particular kingdom where that Indian ruler is there, and he will be acting as a link between East India Company and the Indian the ruler. Okay, he is called the resident, British resident. He will stay in that particular kingdom only, wherever the Indian ruler is there, and he will see that these people should, like they should not enter into any other relations with any other foreign powers or any other European powers. Like I said, those days, along with British, even French were active in India. So they got afraid, maybe they wanted to have a monitoring of these people, whether they're having any relations with foreigners. So they said they have to agree a British officers to stay in their kingdom, and they should not appoint, any Indian ruler should not appoint any European in any kind of service in the kingdom without consulting the East India Company. That was another important condition. And they should also agree to maintain British troops at their own cost. So here you may get a doubt. See, after agreeing with all such conditions, what benefit that the Indian ruler is going to get? The benefit that the Indian ruler is going to get is protection, security. The Britishers have given him or given that Indian ruler, whoever has entered into that agreement, that whoever agrees for our conditions in this subsidiary alliance, they will be protected from their enemies as well as their foreign invasions or any kind of security issues will be taken under the control of Britishers. They can protect their territory. So, and in the case of protecting their territories, they have to keep some British troops there, armies there, and that maintenance, paying salaries and giving them shelter, food and everything, again it should be taken care by the Indian ruler. So not Britishers won't pay them any salaries and all, or the company will not pay any salary. The ruler who agreed for this alliance have to pay salaries, their food, their living and all in the kingdom. And this is nothing, finally this subsidiary alliance is nothing but the kingdom virtually lost their importance. The Indian rulers, they're just becoming subsidiaries to the East India Company. They don't have any, for every thing they have to depend on the monitoring of the British resident who stays there. So indirectly the kingdom is under their control, and still the rulers are ruling. By 1856, practically all Indian states had either been annexed or had entered into alliances. So, by 1856, just an year before this revolt, many of Indian kingdoms, starting with Bengal, they have been annexed. That means maybe directly through wars they have been taken under control, or they might have taken the kingdoms into subsidiary alliances. Through subsidiary alliances, they might have taken control over their kingdoms. So, with the company, the British had become supreme power of the Indian princes, and the princes were reduced to puppets. By this kind of policy, like subsidiary alliance, they made the Indian princes and rulers puppets in their hands. So they'll be for namesake rulers, and all the administration, all the troops, all the security, all the taxation, everything is controlled by the Britishers. So after understanding the subsidiary alliance, where the people, the kingdoms have been virtually annexed without independence, then another Governor General of India by name Lord Dalhousie. Okay, you can see Lord Dalhousie in the picture, and he came up with another policy to annex Indian kingdoms, or he wanted that kingdoms under his control. So what did Lord Dalhousie do? He introduced a policy called Doctrine of Lapse. So what is that policy called? Doctrine of lapse. So here doctrine means a set of beliefs. Lapse means invalid. So here a set of beliefs. So doctrine of lapse means, so doctrine I means I said no, a set of beliefs, and lapse means becoming invalid. Okay. So what is this doctrine of lapse? And so who introduced it? It was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. So according to this doctrine, the heirs adopted without the consent of the company could inherit only the private property of the deceased ruler. So here, this doctrine of lapse says that the heirs. So who are these heirs? That means heir is generally a person, no, like who is legally having rights. I mean, suppose father and son. Son is a legal heir of father. Whatever the properties and all are there with the father, then he becomes a legal, person to have that property whichever is left over by father. So a legal authority or a legal person who has rights to have certain kind of properties and all from their elders. So here heirs adapted without the consent of the company. So during those days there are certain kings and rulers who don't have, they might have not got any children. So what they do when they don't have children, they might have adopted somebody, and this adopted heirs without the permission of British is invalid. So they were not allowed to become the next rulers of this territory. Suppose there is a territory called A, okay, and king is K. And what this king did, he didn't have a child. So what he do? He'll adapt a person or he'll adapt a boy. He becomes his adopted son. Now, this adopted son, as per doctrine of lapse introduced by Dalhousie, this adopted son is not eligible to rule the kingdom. Okay, this adopted son can only inherit. That means he can only get property of the king, I mean personal property of the king. See, a king may collect money from taxes and all, and he stores it in treasury. Some amount he'll use it for personal use, and he might have earned something for his personal use. The money which the king has for personal use, only that can be given to this adopted son, and this adopted son will not be allowed to become the next ruler of that particular kingdom also. So as per the company's rule, the adopted sons or heirs are not allowed to become the rulers after the death of the existing ruler. So if the king dies, generally the adopted son should become the next ruler. But according to doctrine of lapse, this adopted son is not allowed to go and sit on the throne. So when the ruler of Jhansi died in 1853, leaving no natural heir, the widow Rani was pensioned and their adopted son Anand Rao was recognized as a lawful, unlawful successor of the throne. The other prominent states which became victims to the doctrine were Satara, Jaipur, Sambalpur, Udaipur and Nagpur. So what happened here? They were saying an example. So in 1853, okay, the ruler of Jhansi was a state in those days, and the ruler died. So the king died. When the king died, by the time when he died, he was not having any legal child. Legally, he was not having any son or no daughter. So, and at this time, his wife was Rani. Okay, so what she was did, she was taken for pension. She was converted as a pensioner. The British said that the ruler of Jhansi died without any legal son, and only they have only an adopted son called Anand Rao. So at any cost, the British will not going to accept Anand Rao as the legal ruler of Jhansi. So they made the wife of ruler of Jhansi as pensioner, and the adopted son was not accepted. So like this, no, they tried to take control of all the territories, like Satara, Jaipur, Sambalpur, Udaipur, and Nagpur. And all these rulers, they were not having born children, so they adapted some people, and based on the doctrine of lapse, they didn't agree for adapted sons to become rulers, and thereby they took control over all these places. So this is about the doctrine of lapse introduced by Lord Dalhousie. So the principle of lapse was also applied to take away the titles and pensions of the rulers of some states. So what these Britishers did, they also applied this doctrine of lapse in such a way that the kings or the rulers, they no more can have any titles. Okay, so they cannot use any titles which say that they are the rulers of that place. So they didn't agree, and also they took away some pensions of the rulers, saying that they are not the legal rulers, they were just adapted by some king, so they cannot be continuous rulers, and all such conditions they kept. And they took away the titles of the nawabs, which say, I mean, which generally say about their dignity. So like these nawabs will be having many titles, Bahadur and all, no? So what they did, they took away such titles also, because they feel that that titles will always say them in public that they are the rulers of that place. So they also took away the titles, applying doctrine of lapse. They removed pensions for them, they removed the titles of them, and also in such manner, by taking titles, pensions, they conquered Carnatic and Tanjore. So you can see here, the place Carnatic. Okay, so and also you can see here Arcot. So in the South India, you can see this Arcot. And the rulers of Indian states believed that. So this is Jhansi state. How they captured the state, as ruler died, what they did, they didn't accepted Anand Rao to continue as the legal ruler. So they took away this Jhansi state in this portion, not that one. And they even took Arcot, so an important place in southern India. The Arcot ruler, he was not accepted because of doctrine of lapse. So the application of doctrine lapse, but due to lapse of all morals on the British. So here, the rulers of Indian states, when British were taking away all their territories in the name of doctrine of lapse, what Indian rulers felt, they felt that, see, it is not the Indian rulers are, they felt that the British is not having any morals, and they cannot take away their kingdoms based on moral grounds. Firstly, the British themselves don't have any morals, because they are foreigners and they are trying to involve in the local affairs of, who are they to decide whether they can adapt a son, whether their adopted son can be ruler or not. Who are they to decide? So the Indian rulers felt that first, the British don't have any morals, and they are speaking about the moral grounds on which a ruler should rule. So they felt that all the Britishers who brought this kind of policies are not having any morals. They are having their lapse of morals. That means they don't have any morals, first of all. So another way of taking control of Indian territories or princely states, it was continuing. So what was the other way they adapted? On the pretext of allied misrule. So this is a very peculiar reason that the Britishers tried to apply on the on the Indian princely states. So in 1856, Lord Dalhousie annexed Awadh to Company's dominions on the pretext of allied misrule. See, before understanding what happened, why this misrule and what is allied misrule, so the Britishers felt that they tried to give allegations on the ruling of the the Indian princely state. Suppose there is a state or there is a kingdom, you think, for example. So there is a kingdom, and what British saying now, especially according to Lord Dalhousie, this kingdom is misruled. So why they are misruled? They just made an allegation called they are ruling without any proper rights. So what is this Alid misrule there? So what happened was, by this time, Oudh, especially this Awadh state, it was used for their personal, revenges and all. So when Bengal, when the Britishers wanted to control Bengal, okay, they made many people, many rivals of Bengal to join hands with the British, promising him that they'll become rulers. For example, Awadh ruler Shujauddaulah, he was, like later he was promised Mir Qasim. They were all promised that they will be made kings of Bengal, and so by this time it was an important state in Bengal. Okay, so Awadh, Bihar, and now Bengal, they were all important states in Bengal. So what they did, the rulers of Awadh promised that if they help them in fighting against the Bengal Nawab, they'll make them as Nawab of Bengal. So in this game, finally the Britishers won. All those battles we discussed in Battle of Buxar. No, finally the ruler of Awadh will lose the battle because he involves in the tripartite struggle with in Battle of Buxar. So when Britishers were fighting to take control on Bengal, so even Awadh ruler, Shujauddaulah will come and participate. So then they thought that yes, this person has to be taken under control. So what they did, they said that that person was not worthy enough to rule that place. And as British seemed to have broken their promises made to the ruling chief, this caused the resentment among the Indians in general and Awadh in particular. So they might have promised something to the Awadh ruler, but later what they do know, once they get power and territory, they again change the words. So on all such issues, the rulers were unhappy. So these rulers, they were trying to become against British, and now British, they don't want anybody to act against them. So what they did, on the issue of misruling, what they did, they tried to occupy that territory. So, and even after annexation of Awadh, okay, so they made some allegations that that particular ruler who was ruling Awadh was misruling that place. So based on this, they just simply go and occupy that territory. Lord Dalhousie justified the annexation of Awadh on the pretext of good of the government. That means after occupying this territory, even Dalhousie made a statement that it is for the good of people only. Okay, that misruling has been taken off and a good rule will be there now. So, in the pretext of the good of the governor, that means the people will get good governance. So, for that only some good has happened to them. So, because of British rule, there is some good going to happen for our people. So, like that, he justified whatever he did. On the other one side, he is taking away the original ruler by saying that he is ruling in a wrong way, and the other side he is saying that it is for good sake only that misrule is removed and British rule is there. And on the contrary, is it really so? Is it really that the British are governing them properly? No. The people of Awadh has to face more difficulties because the British know they outrightly increase the taxes and they tried to take away all the money from resources from that area. So people face a lot of hardships, that means difficulties, like what they promised. They said that we will give you a good governance, but it was not there. People had to face many difficulties. They had to pay higher land revenue and additional taxes, just as I said, on food, houses, ferries, and just so in many ways, these people they were allowed to pay high taxes and no additional taxes on ferries, the ships, which carry goods and all. Those are called ferries. So even on food, houses they live, the ships which they carry for transport and all, for making justice, law, and everything, they collected a lot of money and they try to exploit the resources there. So this is another new way of control that was adapted by Lord Dalhousie. So in the process of taking Awadh into control on the basis of misruling and all, so what they did, they dissolved the Nawab of Awadh's army. Okay, so Awadh's army was completely dissolved, and the administration also they took direct control. And what they did, when they took the administration under their control, whoever are the nobles, that means ministers of Nawab, everybody, other officials and every soldiers, whoever were, looking after the Nawab and all, not the general soldiers, the soldiers who were, looking after the Nawab, the nobles who are working under the Nawab, the officials or the government servants who are working with the Nawab of Awadh, they were all removed from their jobs. So the Britishers first removed all the soldiers who are working for the Nawab, the ministers working for them. Then also they removed, the other officers who are working for Nawab in the court. And what happened? See, these Nawab used to get taxes from lot of lands called estates. In those days, there were estates, and from these estates, they used to get taxes from the lands. So what they did now, after removing all the officers and ministers in the court, they captured all the estates of the Nawab. They removed the zamindars or talukdars who looks after these estates from their post. They removed all these zamindars and talukdars, and now they take all the estates which were under Nawab under their control. So once all this the main source of revenue was under their control, then it is easy for them to get money. So when British did such thing, the ministers, the soldiers, everybody, they were unhappy with the British policy. They said that they'll give good governance, but removing all of them, even taking out their estates and sources of income is a sign of not good governance, right? So this made everyone to be unhappy. Already the rulers, the nobles, the zamindars, the talukdars, everybody were unhappy. And the company sepoys, of whom 75,000 from Awadh were the worst affected. So I said, no, like they were, what they did, they, the soldiers who were close to Nawab were removed from jobs. And the other soldiers, there were almost 75,000 of soldiers who were from this Awadh. Okay, from this Awadh region, the British East India Company maintained 75,000 soldiers, and these soldiers were ill-treated. They were not paid salaries regularly. But what they did, they used these soldiers for fighting against other territories. Suppose now Awadh is there, next to that some Bihar is there. To fight with Bihar Nawab or Prince, what they do, they use the soldiers of this place, still ill-treating them. So the soldiers are also very unhappy with the East India Company. What they didn't like, they did not like that their homeland should come under their foreign sway. See, by using the own people, the foreigners are trying to take control of the homeland. This was the opinion of soldiers. Soldiers felt that they were working for British, but for what they are working? They are working to capture their own homelands and handing them over to the foreigners. So they felt this is a very bad thing that is happening. And the annexation of Awadh also affected soldiers' financial position. So all the time the Britishers used to think of their own resources, raising their income and all, and they never paid proper salaries to soldiers and all. Instead, they asked them to pay higher taxes on land. So the families, see, if the soldiers are also having families and all, they might be doing some kind of agricultural activities and all. So their higher taxes they started collecting, paid less salaries to, soldiers. Nobles were removed. The zamindars lost their significance at, their I mean, estate level, and these all factors made, you know, a big unhappiness with the Awadh people. They felt very unhappy and disappointed, and they were very, angry on the British now. In fact, Awadh played a major role in the uprising of 1857 revolt. So these all things they did with Awadh, right? So Awadh, if you take, this is the first center of revolt. No, I'll say this is another center, but a major center in the revolt. 1857. Now you can understand why Awadh participated. The soldiers of Awadh actively participated in 1857 revolt means these are all the things which they did with the Awadh. So they were doing many policies, right? Subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse, and on the basis of misruling, they occupying many territories. This all became one major reason. So another reason that happened was the disrespect shown to Bahadur Shah. See, who was this Bahadur Shah? You can see Bahadur Shah in the picture here. Who was this Bahadur Shah? Bahadur Shah Zafar, the Mughal ruler, was under the protection of company and received a pension from British in 1849. So, when East India Company was rising in the beginning and the Mughals lost their glory, like especially with these weak rulers like Bahadur Shah Zafar and all, they made see, by this time Mughals were the emperors of India, right? And who was the emperor at the time? Bahadur Shah Zafar. And you know that East India Company is taking all the territories into their control. So what they did, they made the Emperor of India, who is nothing but Bahadur Shah Zafar, as a pensioner. They said that you are no more the Emperor of India, you are just a pensioner for British. We will give you some money, keep quiet somewhere and lead your life. That was the orders passed by East India Company. They will give some pension every month for the Emperor for namesake, and they have to remain quiet. And Lord Dalhousie announced that the successors of Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was the Mughal emperor, would not be permitted to use Red Fort as their palace. So, being emperors of Mughals, their place of living was Red Fort. So, the Britishers asked, especially Lord Dalhousie said that the successors, that means whoever their legal sons and other relatives, everybody, they have to leave the Red Fort and live in some other areas. They cannot claim no Red Fort as their palace, and no more such emperor kind of living style is possible now. They have to vacate that palace and they have to live like normal people. They were required to shift to place near the Qutub Minar. So the British said that no, you no more, we will not accept you as an emperor. You are just pensioner now. Anybody who is your relatives and all, you should vacate this Red Fort and you have to go and live in a normal place. And in 1856, Lord Canning announced that at the death of Bahadur Shah, his successors would not be allowed to use the imperial titles with their names and would be known as mere princes. So in 1856, when Bahadur Shah died, okay, Lord Canning, okay, he is Lord Dalhousie and he is Lord Canning. Lord Canning said to the successors of Bahadur Shah that they cannot take all the titles they have, like Bahadur Shah and all, no, like the Emperor of India. They have certain titles, the Mughals. So he said that the successors of Bahadur Shah Zafar cannot take any titles and proclaim themselves, because these titles always resemble their emperorship. So they said that no more the successors can adapt such kind of titles or should not follow any such title. They should just remain as princes. They'll get some pension, live happily with it. That's all. This decision of the British involved, this is like a disrespect, right? They made Bahadur Shah a pensioner, asked them to vacate Red Fort, asked them to stop using their titles. These all were like, it's a kind of insult to the Mughal rulers and even the Muslims. So all the Muslims in the country felt that no, it is like a big disrespect to them from British, and they were also unhappy and angry with the decisions of British or the East India Company. Consequently, Zeenat Mahal, the wife of Bahadur Shah, began plotting against him. So Zeenat Mahal, so she is Zeenat Mahal, and she was observing all the things that the Britishers are doing. I mean, the East India Company people are doing. So she started plotting against them. She felt that somehow we have to eradicate these British people. They have to, send them away from this place. So she started some plottings, plans and other things secretly against the British rulers or the East India Company rulers. So here what happened then? The treatment given to Nana Sahib and Rani Lakshmi Bai. So what they did with Nana Sahib and Lakshmi Bai? See here, you can see here Nana Sahib and here Bhajirao too. Okay. Nana Sahib was the adopted son of Bhaji Rao too. So Nana Sahib, Bajirao, what happened was he was not having any sons, so he adopted his brother's son, who is Nana Sahib. And see, these Nana Sahib and Bajirao, they belong to Maratha Empire. Okay, so they belong to Maratha Empire and they were called Peshwas. So Bajirao too was the last Peshwa of Maratha Empire. Peshwa means they are the ministers or the rulers of Maratha Empire who emerged later. So Bajirao too, as he doesn't have a son, he adopted Nana Sahib, who is his brother's son. And the British refused to grant Nana Sahib the pension they were paying to Bajirao. So Bajirao was a regular ruler, so they used to pay him pension. But after the death of Bajirao, Nana Sahib, who was his adopted son, was refused to by the Britishers to pay pension. They said that Nana Sahib is not the legal son of Bajirao, so we don't pay any pension to you. Nana Sahib was forced to live at Kanpur, far away from his family seat at Pune. So, from the headquarters of the Maratha Empire, Nana Sahib was asked to vacate and he was to live very far away from that place. He was forced to leave that original place of their ruling, and this was widely resented in the Maratha region. The Maratha region felt very angry, and now the people of Maratha and other people, they felt this very bad treatment. So the foreigners trying to disunite even the Marathas. So they felt very angry on the Britishers because they have sent away forcibly the Nana Sahib. Nana Sahib has inherited wealth from the farmer Peshwa, which he utilized in sending emissaries. So they agreed, right, in Doctrine of Lapse, any personal wealth that a ruler has, that they can give it to adopted son, but not the wealth that belongs to kingdom. If he has some personal thing, that he can give. So here Baji Rao too has given some wealth to Nana Sahib. Now Nana Sahib, who was away from headquarters of Maratha kingdom, what he did, by using that money which his father gave him, who is Bajirao too, he started emissaries to different parts of the country. Emissaries means representatives. He is using that money, he sent some people to different parts of the country for generating awareness among Indians about the British policies. He is trying to alert the other Indian rulers to not fall into the trap of these British policies. So that money which he got from his father, adopted father, he was using for such things. Nana Sahib traveled between Delhi and Lucknow to gather support for the movement. So Nana Sahib was very angry and he was preparing slowly that he wanted to strike back against the British. So in that connection, he is trying to get support from all other rulers. He is sending representatives. Sometimes he travels from Delhi to Lucknow to gather support. So such all things he was doing. And even Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi was also a victim of this doctrine of lapse. So her adopted son was not accepted as a legal ruler of Jhansi state. So as Rani was not having a son, they adopted Anand Rao as a son, but they said no, and the Jhansi was also adversely affected. Rani Lakshmi Bai was made just a pensioner; she was not treated properly, and this ill treatment to Nana Sahib and Jhansi even made the Maratha states and the state of Jhansi to join the 1857 revolt at the later stage. So these are all the things that are doing now the Britishers are doing in a long run. So slowly this added to the resentment or the unhappiness or to all sections of India. So another political cause, what was the important cause means. So absentee sovereignty of British. Sovereignty means self-rule. So what is this absentee sovereignty? So anyhow, the East India Company has taken control of all the territories of India and making the rulers, Indian rulers, to lose their sovereignty, right? The Indian rulers, with various policies and with various means of methods, the British is trying to take under their control. So all the Indian rulers' sovereignty was taken away by British. Sovereignty means generally, the self-rule. The self-rule of Indian states has been taken away by British now. So, and along taking away such sovereignty, what they're doing, the British is governing India from England at a distance of thousands of miles. So they are not ruling, the British government is not ruling Indians now. Only in a trading company is controlling all the territories in India. And this trading company is operated by British government somewhere thousands of miles away from India. See, anytime if somebody wants to rule, they have to be in that place. But the ruling is done from thousands of miles. The earlier rulers like Mughals who had conquered India, in course of time settled in India, the revenues they collected from Indians was spent in India only. On one side, the Britishers are ruling thousands of miles away, and what they're doing, they are taking away all the resources to England. People felt that Mughals have also conquered Indians, but what Mughals did, they settled in India, they ruled the Indians, they collected taxes, they used the taxes again on Indians. This is a way of ruling. Okay, but what the Britishers are doing, they using the trade company, they collect taxes, they conquer the Indian territories, and they take away all the money to England. So this process is not acceptable to majority of the Indians. So the British, what they're doing, they're ruling from England, and India's wealth was also drained to England and not utilized at all for the welfare of the people. So if you look at the foreign trade in those days, like huge exports were there, surplus happened, many finished goods trying to come from that. We'll discuss in the later part. So thus the Britishers taking away wealth, they were treating Indians also very badly.